Hello, agus fàite go trí seascad den program ag BBC Alba hadal go crea scéalach an bhóranig an an sùil spórs na h-Alba. Is mis Iona Ballantyne agus ha mi còicheadair gabhail seann cluicheadair na h-Alba Julie Fleeting MBE in stiùdio. Program na h-Aon le cúsin teann ag múlach SWPL hin, bí mi hínas Julie Cuideachd ar cuiche bhain cóirí na Geamiachean. Cluinnidh bhfuil cluicheadair na h-Alba agus Everton Lucy Graham agus bí Amy Connell a Brownman Sports karate síon dòchas ein chuna Geamiachean Oilimpigeach. Julie, welcome back to 360.
Thank you, thanks for having me.
Well, what a season we're having in SWPL 1. It's really shaping up to be exciting at the top, isn't it?
It is very exciting. We thought the kind of full-time sides were going to pull away. Certainly Glasgow City and Rangers have been on top, but for me, quite a shock result last night because I hadn't felt that anyone was going to take points off Rangers the way they had been playing the last few weeks. So great games and yeah, leaves everything wide open.
Well, with that Celtic Rangers game, Rangers, like you say, have been on form and they've been scoring so many goals, but a fantastic goal from Mariah Lee there.
It was a brilliant goal, a fantastic pass through. The pass in itself was just tremendous. Great weight of pass. Gave the keeper, Jenna had felt that she could come out to get it. It left her to make a decision, and Celtic would be delighted with that because Rangers have been on top form. They've been comfortably beaten sides, and Celtic, I think they've been building since they came back. They had a defeat against City, and since then they've really been coming into form. I've seen them in the last couple of weeks, and that result will do them the world of good, certainly for their confidence.
And for, I mean, even just the Celtic Rangers game last night, seeing it on TV on BBC but also seeing it in Celtic Park, it looks great seeing SWPL 1 played in such a vast stadium.
Yeah, fantastic, and the girls would have thoroughly enjoyed being there. Nicer if they had people there to watch, of course, but to get to play at Celtic Park would have been a fantastic occasion, and to win even better.
But all of these results and for such an exciting season, it's good for people looking in who maybe hadn't even thought about women's football or SWPL 1 now, because if you watch it week in, week out and see the scores, it's brilliant.
It is, and for years we had Glasgow City running away with the league. Yes, Hibs kind of pushed them, there was always those top two sides, but now when you've got the old firm, you've got City who are still strong, having lost quite a few players, they've been able to recruit again. Hibs are hanging in there, so it does make for a much more exciting league, and the fact that we now, you can't call it, there's so many teams that are going to be pushing to win that title.
Like you say, you can't call it because at the weekend before the midweek games, Rangers were top, Glasgow City were 8.8 goals behind them, and then they just went out and scored 8 goals against Motherwell. Yeah,
that's the thing, there is quite a gap when we talk about these top 4 sides. There is quite a gap between those sides and the teams at the bottom who are relatively inexperienced, certainly at this level, and it's not easy to come in and have a squad of players who are younger, not used to playing football as fast. The movement of the players is certainly difficult to deal with, so there is a bit of a gulf. So it depends what side you're playing, whether you're going to be able to score 8 goals or whether you're going to be pushed all the way and maybe scrape a 1-0 win.
Well, that's the thing, because we thought maybe for a few weeks that Glasgow City and Rangers, the Champions League spots were maybe theirs, but now Celtic have just come in and opened that right back up again.
I know, the fact Celtic are the only team to beat Rangers, that's twice they've lost this season, and it's been at the hands of Celtic, so they certainly know how to win against their rivals, but they need to then produce results against maybe your Glasgow City and the other sides round about them if they do really want to push, but they're certainly in a good place at the moment, having won their last few.
And it's also very tight in the middle of the table because that 4th spot is quite a hot spot too just now.
It is, and I mean, I was listening to the Forfar coach a few weeks back saying that they were targeting trying to get top of that mid group, and that's aspirational goals, isn't it? You really want your team to be aiming as high as they possibly can, and you know the top 3, possibly 4 spots are going to be taken, but for sides like Spartans and Forfar, who have been in the league for a number of years, you would say that is their target, to try and top that middle group, if you like, And for them, there is still a lot to play for. There's the opportunity to take points off these teams and trying to cause an upset.
Well, even down the bottom of the table with Hearts and Motherwell, things haven't been easy or great for them this season, but you're still seeing a lot of young players come through, which is actually great for the growth of the game too.
It is. It's great, and also some of the other sides are able to loan players out that are not getting as much football as they possibly would with the top sides. And as you just hope that when it is, and if they're on the wrong end of an 8-0 win, it doesn't dent their confidence too much, because it is all part of growing and it is all part of learning at that level. And when you come up against what is probably the majority of the side are international players, when you're playing against the top sides in the league, that's always going to be difficult. So it's about trying to gain experience at this level and try and keep your confidence as high as possible.
Absolutely, and it's just so great to see it develop too.
It is, it's fantastic, and it's great to have been able to get the opportunity to go to the games and to learn about the new players that are coming into the league, because there's so many new players that are adding an awful lot to the league themselves, and to be a part of it and to be able to watch it grow has been fantastic over the last few weeks.
Great, thank you so much, Julie. A season harabachal Albannach Lucy Graham h-Aon le Everton sin WSL. An skipper éich is the head leg and league le Geamiachean Oilimpigeach. Here sin còrdadh Bruni Lucy gus Cluinnidh bliadhna magéirigh Albannach.
Háisí skipper Everton Lucy Graham on the ball cosai Cuideachd. Agus choráid fàite mas the hockey, other for Farmington.
I went from playing kind of girls football one day to playing kind of senior women's football the next day. It was quite a strange kind of transition, but you know, I think it was one that was also quite natural. You know, I was playing at that level already, so when I did end up signing for Forfar, you know, I fitted in really well. The only difference was, I guess, the kind of physicality of it. Of, you know, I was playing with grown women now instead of, you know, girls that were my age. So I definitely think going into women's football kind of that early in my career definitely was a springboard for me going forward.
As Joey Chomas ag Forfar, Galé Lucy Coram at Alcu Hibs for an de Cuideachd Eulus is a manager a haig Everton Adrasta, Willie Kirk.
He obviously saw something in me even at that young age, and yeah, I think again it was just the right move for me at the right time, to be in an environment that was even more competitive. And obviously Hibs at the time were battling at the top of the table and finding themselves in cup finals, and that was something that I wanted to kind of be involved in consistently. Obviously when I was at Forfar, we had a really good year. You know, we finished second in the league and you know, got to the Scottish Cup final. So from that position you might think, you know, why did I move from Forfar? But it was definitely the right move at the right time, because the years that came after moving to Hibs, you know, I found myself consistently at the top of the table battles and then cup finals. So yeah, it was really good.
Cluich Lucy's the Champions League Còrdadh Hibs, agus a cainaching snocaiche a farpas ag the Yarbach.
Yeah, the Champions League's the competition that every domestic team wants to be involved in. You know, it's such a great competition, and again, just to be involved in it with Hibs. Obviously, I played with a lot of my friends at the time in Hibs, and to go through that experience with them was obviously great. I remember the first year that we were in it, we got drawn against Bayern Munich, and I remember just the draw coming out and thinking like, oh my God, like I was a wee bit starstruck, just because I was thinking I'm going to be playing against some of the best female players in Europe, but also just the whole experience of it. And obviously we were playing Easter Road that time, and you know, we got friends and family and a big crowd to come along, and we knew that we had a massive task on our hands at the time, but we all kind of just embraced it and, you know, enjoyed it for what it was. And yeah, I mean, there were some great memories that I still look back on very fondly. It was certainly a highlight of my career at the time.
Galvan Cluicheadair go Bristol City gus barach uit is a Jano, is he a gamas at Cluicheadair he is like Jace.
It was just at a point in my career where I felt like, obviously in the Scottish League it was still amateur at the time, and I was balancing kind of a job and I tried to be a full-time athlete at the same time, so it was quite difficult. And I got to a point really where I just had to have a word with myself and was like, if I want to do this as a professional, then I'm probably going to have to go out of Scotland to do it. So yeah, I just kind of seeked out a little bit of representation and got myself a trial down at Bristol for a few days, and yeah, thankfully after the few days, they were quite impressed with what they saw and they wanted to sign me. So I was absolutely thrilled, and yeah, that again for me, that was that next level, getting to that kind of professional standard, that professional league. Yeah, I've got really, really fond memories from Bristol. I still speak to a lot of the players and a lot of the people there. They looked after me really well when obviously it was my first year going down, and kind of like a bit like a fish out of water kind of thing. I'd try to find my feet and stuff like that. So especially with this accent, it was quite tough. But no, I've got really, really fond memories of Bristol, and I do really have a soft spot for them a little bit.
Ha a how mag skipper na Toffees on the Merseyside a còrdadh go mór. Is he a gobad colleague manager Willie Cuideachd.
He was at Bristol for a short spell before I was there, then obviously moved to Man United before becoming the manager at Everton. So, we had crossed paths a few times. I think the season before I actually signed, we played Everton and we beat them 1-0 when I was at Bristol, and it just so happened that I scored against them. So yeah, I think he must have liked kind of what I saw, and yeah, he was really keen on signing me for Everton, and yeah, I guess that's because I had worked with him before. I think he knew me as a person also, and he wanted to bring me to the club. So yeah, I'm really thankful that he did.
Ha Lucy Mochtel bhín a skipper ag Everton, agus haon dòchas service a Hortigan club, a seoigh a cún at the Lietachug.
I obviously had no real experience of being a kind of captain or anything, but I think my natural kind of leadership skills and communication skills, and we're just at a level where I think he could put trust in me to kind of lead by example. So yeah, it's a huge honour, and I love walking the girls out at the weekend. Obviously we played in the FA Cup final, which again was a huge highlight, walking the team out at Wembley. It kind of just puts shivers down my spine even thinking about it. I've worked really, really hard to get to where I am just now, and obviously there's been a lot of kind of commitment from myself and obviously from my family as well, the whole way through. So I think they're always proud when they kind of see me on the TV or whatever with the captain's armband and leading the girls out. The club just now are in a place where they're so ambitious that it's something that I want to be in the middle of, and really trying to drive the standard forward. I believe that we're only really scratching the surface of what we're doing just now at the minute. So to extend my contract for another 2 years and be involved in it for even longer is something that I'm so committed to helping Everton win silverware, or just reach new boundaries and a new potential that they might never have thought was capable.
Han cluicheadair Albannach Lucy an práisiil a dúigh go héin ar uchgachug. Is he a gamas iad an h-Alba and skipper náisiúnta a dhearradh?
Yeah, for me, playing for Scotland is a pinnacle of football. When I was a young girl, people always used to say to me, "Oh, we might see you on the TV one day. You might play for Scotland one day." And I don't know if that was just like a naive thing that I thought, "Oh yeah, that would be cool. That would be really good." And then when it actually happens, it's a kind of pinch yourself moment to think that you're involved in, the highest standard of football that you can actually achieve. So, again, I'm just trying to break my way in, and just be involved as much as possible. I think being involved in a really, really high intense kind of competitive club environment has really helped me grow as a person and as a player. So when I go into the international level and on the international stage, I'm already used to it. So yeah, again, it's such a proud moment for myself to pull on the national team jersey. And again, it's not just for me, it's for my family as well. They're very much a part of it as well.
Ha Lucy is Jean Dort go mór van de Geamiachean san spórs. Is he haast to find dòchas van dríochgaiche on the ball kosher.
Yeah, it's quite hard to believe actually. I think as well when you just say that when you start as a young girl, even at primary school and things, you were always asked, what do you want to be when you grow up and stuff. And you would go around the class and it would be, I want to be a farmer, I want to be a policewoman, a policeman or whatever. And mine was always, I just wanted to be a footballer. I don't know how naive that was of me to say that, because it was probably a bit of a pie in the sky shot at the time, because there was no kind of representation on the TV of women playing football, or there was very limited coverage of it. So to look now where I am and where I've come from is very, very humbling, and you know, I just can't believe I'm in the thick of it, really. So I look back on it very, very fondly, but you know, I've still got so much to give to the game, and I really look forward to whatever comes next.
Julie, what a great story, starting out with for Formartine and then now down the Women's Super League, playing professionally.
I know, it's a great story when you hear her speaking there about growing up and being at school and always having that goal of being a footballer but not really knowing how she was going to do it. It's a great story, all the different stages that she's gone through, from girls football to moving to Forfar to Hibs, and so on, and now to be playing for our national side and playing professionally down in England. It's a brilliant story, it's great to listen to.
Because I guess kids growing up now in school, if you're asked that and you're a little girl and you say you want to be a professional footballer, you could be, because it's happening, but I suppose when you were younger, what was it like? Yeah,
I mean, nowadays if you said that, then it's obvious, there's an obvious pathway now for you to get from being a girl playing football all the way through to a professional athlete. But I never ever thought for a second I would become a professional footballer. For me, if I was asked, I would always have said a PE teacher, which fortunately for me I have gone on to become, but if my first choice would always have been a footballer. But I had no idea that that was ever going to be possible. It wasn't at that time, it certainly wasn't anywhere that I had seen or heard of, but it wasn't until I started to go to university that I had heard that there were actually professional leagues elsewhere in the world. So nowadays, for kids to have that, to aspire to become the next Lucy Graham, then it's fantastic for them.
So good to see. And the other thing that Lucy mentioned, which is important because I don't know if we talk about it enough, is that actually a lot of footballers, especially up here, are working full time. And football, even though they're playing in SWPL 1, that's their extra time when they're doing it because they love it. But actually they've got a full-time job or a full-time student, or there's a lot going on.
That's the reality of it for the female footballers. Those who stay in Scotland, certainly that's, for the majority of them, that's their life. They have to work full-time, most people, to be able to pay their way in life, to be able to have a mortgage, etc. And it's really, really difficult to then still compete at the highest level, because not only are you not training as much as other players, but you don't have that recovery time. You don't have the time to be able to eat properly, because you're on the go. You're constantly going from work to training, or vice versa. So it is really difficult, and to be able to still maintain that at a high level. It's hard. And even players, when I look at players like Jo Love, who has continued to have her job, because when she started to play, she needed to work, you needed the money then, and although Glasgow City do have professional players, you're then stuck between, this isn't going to be my forever, so do you give up a good job that you've had for a number of years for a few years of playing football, and you might never get the opportunity to go back. So the decisions that you have to make as a female athlete have huge implications in the rest of your life.
And that's the thing, I mean, even just now with the midweek fixtures, Sunday, Wednesday, Sunday, it'll probably take its toll on quite a lot of players who are not used to that.
It does, yeah, because you're not having the time to recover after games at all. I remember when I played for Arsenal and we had midweek games, and I would be leaving my school to fly down to the game, possibly getting away a bit early so that I would make it in time for the kick-off. And then there would be no flight after the game, so I would stay overnight in the hotel at the airport, and I would be on the first flight home in the car and driving and being back at school for 9 o'clock start in the morning. So that in itself, I wasn't getting the appropriate sleep after a game. I wasn't being able to eat properly after the game, and then going straight to work. So to try and maintain playing at the very highest level is extremely difficult when you think of those types of circumstances.
And so many sacrifices that come with that too. But I guess the thing from that now is that there's been a huge growth in women's football, which we're seeing, which is great. But unfortunately what comes with that, which we've seen recently, is a lot of abuse online, which is so damaging. And I suppose the one we saw recently was, and it's not online, SWPL and Scottish Women's Football had to come out and release a statement due to the abuse that Forfar Farmington and Hearts were receiving for a goal that was posted online. And it's
just horrific that they have to come out and release a statement, isn't it? The fact that they've actually had to come out and do that for two girls who are playing football because they love playing football. They're not playing football to get themselves in the media. And the fact that these young girls have had to go through that this week is just absolutely heartbreaking. It's
so damaging, and regardless of what people think of football, of what happened during that goal, it does not warrant any type of abuse like that.
Oh, absolutely not. And nowadays, when we're talking about people's mental health, the fact that these girls are playing football, they're doing something really healthy. It's very difficult to keep teenage girls exercising, and you have players here on show, just young girls who are doing just that, maintaining a healthy lifestyle, and because of their sport, because they've lost a goal, they're open to abuse from anybody. And it's just absolutely shocking. The fact that people can do that, they can sit behind their computers, their phones, iPads, whatever, and give abuse to these young players is something that we have to try and deal with it, because it can't go on like that.
It's so horrific, and you see it and really feel for the people the abuse is directed to, because what they're feeling will be horrific. And the kind of problem that you see with that, and that you see with abuse at women in sport across the board. We've had an incident with Karen Carney when she'd mentioned something about Leeds United. There was Michelle Owens, who works for Sky, who received a raft of abuse because she missed an incident when she was live on TV. The common denominator is that they're being abused because they're women in football.
Yeah, there are a lot of people who believe that women shouldn't be in football. Very narrow-minded, and they're not open to allowing females to play football or to see them on their screen, certainly not to commentate or be in the media for the men's game. And it's shocking, because a lot of these people, you look at their profile pictures and you see they have young kids. And for me, my daughters are grown up, and the thought that they could be open to abuse from someone is just... It's a scary thought. It is. It's not something that I grew up with, and it's not something that at the moment I would know how to deal with, and I wish I didn't have to learn how to deal with it. But that's the reality just now, and you just wonder, these people who have children, the people who are giving out the abuse, how would they feel if it happened, if it came to their door? And you do, just going back to these two players, you do really feel for them. The goal that had gone in, if the people take the time to watch it, it doesn't look like the goalkeeper's shooting. So the Hearts goalkeeper is gambling, she's coming out of her box, and all of a sudden it looks to go over her head. Now, I don't know a goalkeeper, I don't know any league that hasn't had a goal scored like that. The goalkeeper's backpedaling and can't save it. Now, it happens at every single level, and to think that they can abuse this young girl for losing a goal like that, when we see it week in, week out, in men's football, boys' football, women's football. It's just absolutely disgusting. It's disgusting, and it's heartbreaking as well, because Forfar Farmington were simply enjoying the moment that a last-minute equaliser. And of course they should. They should. It was a great game. It went all the way to the end, between two sides battling it out, hoping to get the points for their team, and they scored in the last minute. And of course the goalkeeper should celebrate the goal. And to think that we shouldn't just be celebrating it, we should now then be feeling sad and disgusted and all these different emotions because of what's going on in social media is just really unacceptable. It's so unacceptable, but hopefully things will get better. Well, fingers crossed, because you can't take the shine away from what has been a great few weeks for women's football, and the media coverage that they've been receiving. We can't take away from all of the positives, and of course along the way there are going to be people who are going to abuse it, and we have to try and deal with that, and at the same time understand that what we have is a tremendous sport, and we're really proud of what the girls in the league are achieving at the moment.
Great, well, it's a very nice way to take away from it. Geamiachean Oilimpigeach Tokyo an cúmal nas animicha bliadhna agus is sonna chéad uair bí karate an mesc an farpa sin. Ha bhain Albannach Amy Connell chuirsa go bhí mar fairse skipa GB. Bhríonn éimerí trí seascad mu drí Cuideachd agus a dòchasan son Tokyo.
Ha karate sanúil ag sé Albannach Amy Connell, a bheit ddiamh ag gamas I dríoch I dhéanú amachchas sa spáras.
My first introduction to karate actually was from my dad. He teaches karate, so from like a young age I was basically just introduced to it, thrown into it. My big sister competed for Scotland, so I kind of watched her when I was growing up, and I just fell in love with the sport. It was part of our family, so it's kind of how I got involved. When I turned 14 was when I joined the Scotland national team. So that was the first time I'd been experienced like World Championships, European Championships, that type of thing. But I suppose I just loved it, even from a young age. Maybe I started competing when I was like 7 or 8, and I just fell in love with like competing, trying to be your best, like all of that stuff. So I suppose from a young age, it was definitely something that I was like, if I can make a career of this, I'd love to do it.
Geamiachean hafis ag Amy go forstanach sa hai a sewi fáin amach gur stocha nach chuirigi farpa sa díos an spáras, a sewi droch orstachach.
I was on the lead up to the World Championships that year, the end of the year, and obviously we'd been training quite hard and things like that, and basically I ended up with multiple stress fractures on both legs. So I, most athletes I suppose, I personally just thought it was like shin splints, kept training, and then it wasn't until after World Championships I came back and I got some x-rays done, and they said it was like broken and I had to be put in a wheelchair. So quite a big shift in terms of going from a World Championship to that, then not being able to really do a lot for myself. So it was quite a tough time finding out about the injury, and then I suppose the extent of it as well. I don't think I quite realised how like serious it was at the time until I got the x-rays done and got the feedback from specialists saying that I probably wouldn't be able to compete again. So it was a tough time. I think for me, it was obviously complete devastation. I definitely think I look at it in a positive light now, but at the time I think it was devastating at the time, because as an athlete, as you speak to any athlete, like it's your one goal is that thing. So for me, I remember just thinking like, what am I going to do like at the time? But for me, I had a lot of good people around me. I know for me, I was someone who was like, I'm just going to try my best to get back, and if I do everything that doesn't happen, then at least I know I've tried absolutely everything. But for me, I think obviously it's when your main thing is going to be taken away from you, there's a lot of mixed emotions in there. But I think for me, I had my little time where I struggled with that, but then I definitely managed to switch my mindset into like, right, okay, let's just try and do as much as we can to get back, and was able to kind of push through that.
Si fut agus bewn iorpach the choshing, and she spars inis the cuir benachgug ag na Geamiachean Oilimpigeach.
I think after all the injuries and everything like that, coming back at senior level, knowing that you're still part of like the best in the world, because Europeans are one of the toughest competitions out there, and to be able to be there and to take a medal home was huge. I think it just reevaluate, like I suppose, just kind of like reaffirms that you're in the right place, that you're kind of competing with the best people. I think it's definitely a childhood dream, so it is. For me, it would just be absolutely phenomenal. It's a tough time. Obviously, we've got a short window and a short. It's not the most perfect circumstances, obviously, with everything coming up. But I think it's one of those things that it would mean the absolute world. So it would.
Ha COVID bua vor hortid karate. Agus a féim ag Amy in ishtvi cruachal le mar a víasi a trainig in sons gan cúmi I hain and the Joe Hound.
Obviously, we've not for a year. We've not really been able to do. We've not done any contact with like other athletes. So it's been a really strange year for sport, especially on the lead up to or qualifying for Olympics or looking towards like Worlds at the end of the year, that type of thing. It's not the ideal situation, but I'm also very aware that I'm coming from a sporting perspective. Like the world has been very different. There's so much it's been a tough year for everybody all round. And I think the most important thing obviously was people's health that came first. So now we're looking, things are starting to go coming like a bit more back to normal. We're starting to get things moving, which is really exciting. So seeing a bit more movement there. But I suppose over the past year, it's just learning to adapt in situations like this. So we've been doing like Zoom training online. I'm an avid Zoom user now, using things like reaction balls, like rather than having a partner to train. So like it's been, I suppose, good for your imagination in terms of thinking about what we can do and trying to find the best way that we can still keep our mind sharp, keep our body sharp without actually having that like physical contact for karate. So it's been tough, but it's been an adventure, I suppose, trying to find out ways that we can keep like on top form and hopefully be able to come back straight into competition at that high level and be able to compete with other countries that might have had that from a bit longer than us, but it's just making sure that we can do as much as we can.
Ha Amy Tollicher lin na ruta na haid Cuideachd a cha háasta gamas is buigile. Is he tangle son na Corman a ha karate in the hard ski?
I think I'm proud, I suppose, of the athlete that I've become, and I'm definitely not finished. I think it's one of those things that I look back and I'm proud and grateful for how far we've come, but I know there's a long way to go to be the person and the athlete that I really want to be. But I think that it's exciting. I think I'm proud to be part of a sport that's becoming a part of the Olympics. It's kind of getting a bit more, I suppose, mainstream. It wasn't really part of things. It's not really been showcased that much, but I think it's quite exciting to be part of a sport that people are starting to really enjoy to watch and everything like that, and it's becoming a bit more of a spectator sport. So looking back on my career, I'm just proud to be part of it and very grateful to be able to have travelled to all these countries and just, I suppose, pursue my passion with sport. It's a lot of people don't get to do that, so I'm grateful to all the opportunities that I've been open to. For me, obviously Olympics is a massive thing for us, but also before Olympics, it was always Worlds and Europeans for us. That was the biggest stage that we could ever compete on. So for me, definitely, after Olympics, we have World Championships at the end of the year. So for me, that's a massive goal of mine to bring home a World medal and a European medal again.
You can see just how much an injury can make or break you, but Amy is somebody who's used it to really bounce back and then further her sporting career.
Yeah, that's one of the toughest parts of being an athlete, is the fact that you will have, it's very difficult and very unusual for you to go through your whole career and not having experienced an injury, and Amy certainly used it to her advantage and growing in terms of her mental strength as well, which is very important when you're competing at such a high level, and being able to bounce back and come back a stronger athlete. So it's one of the downsides to sport, and it's one of the things that you have to really quickly learn how to deal with.
Was that often on your mind when you were playing?
It's never on your mind, or it certainly wasn't on my mind while I was playing, the possibility of picking up an injury, but it's very, very frustrating when it does happen, because you've gone from being at a level in terms of your fitness and the way that you're playing and your ability, and you get knocked and you almost fall very quickly, and ahead of you might have surgery and also quite a extensive rehab schedule. So no one likes being injured, and it's one of the things that when it does happen to you, you have to be strong if you want to bounce back and come back to be as good, and if not better. You
have to be so strong, and a lot of mental resilience, which you can see as well just now in how different sports are adapting to COVID too. Like she was saying, taking everything online, and it's very different, isn't it now?
It is different, and it has been different for, you would say, almost everyone that you're going to be competing with. I know other countries have dealt with it in different ways and have maybe been back for longer, as Amy had said, but you have to think about the fact that it's going to have affected everyone in some way or another, and you did have to be inventive in terms of their training, and you hope that that's going to be enough, and that they will be ready, and that Amy will go on and be really successful at the Olympics, because it's perfect when you have role models like Amy representing your country in all different sports, and it'll be fantastic to watch and hear how she gets on.
Well, it's great that we do still have the Olympics and big tournaments like that to look forward to, even though a wee bit different in terms of spectators. It'll be much smaller, so it won't be the same buzz which you've probably been dreaming of your whole life.
Yeah, it's a real shame that when you reach that peak in your career, you can't have everything that comes along with it. But I think we've all realised through COVID just how much we appreciate certain things that go on in your life, and certainly for me, big sporting events are one of the things that I've really missed. And whatever we can get, however large or small we can get them back, I know certainly myself, and I'm sure many others will be really excited at the prospect of watching our top athletes compete against the best in the world.
Absolutely, we can't wait. Well, thank you so much for joining us this week, Julie, and hopefully we'll have you back soon.
Thank you, absolutely.
Yn h-Aon bys an lappin call rooms in studio, Jan Cínteach gabhail se Ballantyne 3 seascad ar YouTube, agus géib se an program Geamiachean iPlayer BBC. Agus Cuideachd Cuideachd go bíon SWPL Bheir fiag a BBC ar an Geamiachean oilimpigeach ach chun an ahuras mar sin leibh an dras.